828-694-4200.
District Attorney, Public, may I help you?
Hi, yes, ma'am. I was wondering if you could answer a few questions for me about a case that has been resolved with a judgment.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Thank you very much. My name's JJ, by the way. What's your name?
April.
April. How are you today, April?
I'm okay, and yourself?
Oh, not bad. So I'm calling about the judgment order that was issued against Greg Newman that removed him from office. The findings and facts and conclusions of law from that judgment state that there were many actions taken by Greg Newman, that just one of them would have been enough to remove him from office. And I'm sure that the state of North Carolina would not wish for the court of public opinion to presume that the state is giving Greg Newman aid and comfort by giving him another job with the state. So I'm just calling to get a little bit of clarification and find out when the state plans to seek criminal prosecution against Greg Newman for these criminal acts that are already facts upon the record of the court.
Yes. I do not have any information for you as far as Mr. Newman and what's currently going on with him or maybe going on.
Okay, so you don't know, or it's just not being divulged to the public?
I honestly do not know. I have no idea.
Okay. And it just seems really odd that, he was removed from, office in Henderson, Transylvania, and Polk County, and then given another state job in Buncombe County, and a lot of people could presume from that action, that the state is giving him aid and comfort, even though that, these facts are upon the record, and the conclusions from the judgment are that, he did, step outside of the scope of that office. It becomes accessory after the fact in my mind. So I'm just wondering, who would have the information, to know if the state is going to seek criminal charges against Greg Newman?
I honestly don't know. I can transfer your call and maybe someone else can advise, but I personally have absolutely no knowledge of anything.
Okay, so you're not even aware of the Greg Newman case at all?
I do not know anything of it other than what was broadcasted for the public. That was blasted on local news. I know very little of that, but that's how I know of it. But I do not know details or anything of it.
Okay, so is there
that could be currently going on with him?
Okay, so is there somebody there at the district attorney's office that would have knowledge of the case that I could speak with?
Let me transfer you, and perhaps someone can assist you with that, okay?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, April.
Welcome.
You have a good day.
You too.
All right. Thank you for joining us back here again. Before we really get started, there's a couple of things that I kind of wish to talk about. This comes from pbs.org. It's a memorial to the South Carolina Senate. 4 years after the signing of the Constitution, a group of free men of color from Charleston appealed to the South Carolina legislature for a partial repeal of the 1740 Act for the better ordering and governing Negroes and other slaves. The Negro Act, as it was commonly known, prohibited free blacks from testifying under oath, denied them the right to trial by jury, and subjected them to prosecution by testimony of slaves without oath, by which they are placed on the same footing. So the reason why I bring this up is because if you don't have the right to access a court of law, you're basically a slave. The government is basically saying that you are outside of the protection of the law. And if you're outside the protection of the law, you do not live in a civil society. It's just a fact. And another reason why I bring this up is because one of the things that really struck me about Oracle and my interview with Valerie Owenby is when she was testifying, when she was talking to us about her testifying and how empowering it was to testify against Greg Newman, who committed these atrocious crimes against her. And I thought that that was very, very powerful, because this is the true way that people heal when something atrocious and terrifying, traumatizing happens to them. Is that they go into court and society gives them the power collectively to make it right through a court of law. That's why we have a trial by jury, so that 12 people from society can judge the wrongdoer, the criminal, and decide what happens. Now, I would also like to read this real quick, if you don't mind hanging with me, and then we're going to get into what we're talking about today. So, here's an article after Greg Newman was removed. And this says, "And if it hadn't been for Valerie Owenby going to the bar, then going through that, Valerie basically just saved us all," Few said, of the case where Newman was found to have lied to a judge about notifying an alleged rape victim's family of a plea deal. His whole office needs to be gutted because they've been trained by him to do it the wrong way, Few says. And the reason why I bring this up is because, first things first, I'd really like to make a shout out and let everybody who showed up know that we really, really, really appreciated you. And we're really glad and very thankful that you were there. But Valerie saving everybody from Greg Newman and his criminal acts, let me tell you something. One person cannot save you. The only person who can save you is you. And I don't know about Valerie Owenby, because I can't speak on her behalf. I know about myself. And I felt pretty vulnerable and alone. I'll probably talk about that more as the video progresses. And without further ado, let's see what happened in North Carolina, because that's why everybody's watching this. They wish to see Valerie swear out the warrant against Greg Newman. So here's what happened. Yeah, knock on that.
Can I help you? Hi, I need to do 2 criminal complaints and 2 declarations with each criminal complaint.
Okay, pull the door when you hear it close.
Here she goes into the magistrate's office.
Hi.
Okay, just one person allowed at a time, sorry.
Okay, and that's the first thing, as I planned on going in there with her. I was walking in there with her. And when they told me only one person allowed at a time, considering the last time I was at a courthouse out of town, they tried to lock me up, I didn't feel real comfortable going in there. Now, I probably would have if we would have had more community support, because people realize that Valerie Owenby cannot save everybody from this corrupt criminal system. And if you really wish for the people in the district attorney's office to learn a lesson and to learn not to do these types of things to the general public, then it would really, really help if they saw Greg Newman get arrested and go to jail for what he did, for his criminal acts. It would really, really help. So it'd really, really help us if you guys showed some support for Valerie. Because I have a tremendous amount of respect for this young woman. What she did was incredibly brave. I'm sure it was incredibly terrifying. She didn't exactly know, and she was just kind of going on faith because, well, if a cop can swear out a warrant for you for a couple of Lord tabs, then she should be able to swear out a warrant for James Sapp and Greg Newman for what they did to her. Now let's watch what happens. Because I think Valerie did an awesome stand-up job, and I'm incredibly proud of her.
So if you will, start off by placing your left hand on the Bible for me and raise your right. You swear the testimony that you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what's going on?
All right, so I have 2 criminal complaints. One's for a sex offender for, hold on 1 second. Had this in order.
See, she's a little nervous.
Okay, so can I clarify something? When you're saying criminal complaint, you're not just trying to file a complaint, or are you trying to take a charge?
Take a charge, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure because we're not a reporting agency.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we have this established. The magistrate is the correct place to take out a charge against somebody else who has criminally wronged you.
So, in all honesty, I know you've got notes and all that stuff, and you're welcome to use them for your purposes. But for me, I need to hear it come out of your mouth.
Yes, ma'am.
So, if you will.
All right, this is incredibly important. You just heard the magistrate. I know you got notes and everything, but for me, I have to hear you say it, okay? Because you're a woman coming into a court, you have to verify it with your living voice, because only real people can talk. Corporations and governments can't say anything. And that's why it's so important.
Start at the beginning and just tell me what you're wanting to do.
All right, so I need to file a criminal complaint for James Franklin Sapp.
Okay?
And do I have to start by reading it off to you?
Well, I need to hear it in your own words.
Okay.
Tell me what it's for and what happened and when.
Understood. So when I was 5 years old, James Sapp had approached me and asked me if I wanted to be his girlfriend, which at the time, 5-year-old, I don't, know what the definition of girlfriend is. So I agreed, and then he kissed me on the lips, and then every month after, it progressed into his hand on my thigh, and then his fingers and mouth between my legs. And then he took my virginity at the age of 6. And it continued until I was 12 years old.
Okay. So what you're telling me are felony charges.
Mm-hmm.
In this county, we have a policy that all felonies have to be investigated by law enforcement. I'm aware that Mr. Sapp, I know who he is, because of the case being made. Were you the victim?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I'm a little confused. What you're alleging, help me, because I'm trying to help you. What you're alleging, has that already been covered in the previous charges?
No, ma'am. It's since it was multiple occasions and it was only for one count on the last one, it wouldn't be considered as the double jeopardy for that. So it would be oh goodness.
So on the last count, what date are you referring to, and what exactly happened in that episode? That wasn't covered in the other charges.
All right, so it was oh god, what year was it?
Take your time.
All right, I'd have to say it was like July 4th because it was a holiday, and of 2006.
Okay.
He took me, because we were having a party at his house, my dad's neighbor's house, and he took me into the basement area and he put his penis into my vagina.
Okay. So you're saying that occurred on or about July 4th of 2006 wasn't covered in the previous charges that were taken out on him? That's
Correct.
a separate
Yes.
charge, a separate issue at
Yes.
this point. Okay. And like I'm saying, what you told me, what you're telling me happened is a felony.
Yes.
And it's our policy and has been for at least over a decade. I've been here 11 years, so it's been at least that long, if not longer. That all felonies, because they are so serious, are investigated by law enforcement before they're charged.
Okay.
So I would have to refer you to a law enforcement officer to take a report and a detective to investigate.
But wouldn't that be considered hearsay?
No, hearsay as in what?
That, as in, I'm telling him what, and then he's writing it down and such forth, and then.
No, I mean, that's literally an investigation. That's what an investigation is, and that's what the investigators are there for.
Okay.
So they're just doing their job at that point. They're just there to factually check everything, and if they feel that there is enough probable cause to come to us to take charges on your behalf, that's what they do.
Did you just hear that? Let's go over a couple of things that she said. First off, she said that it is a policy. It's not the law. It's a policy of that district not to accept criminal charges that are felonies without it being investigated by law enforcement. So basically, she's saying that James Sapp could rape your child for 7 years. You could go down to the magistrates, try to access a court of law, and because of their policy in that county, they won't give you the right to a court of law. They won't allow you to put any first-hand testimony onto the record. And let me explain something, because she's talking about how the officer has to investigate, the officer is going to question her, and if the officer feels that there's enough probable cause, then the officer can go in there and take out a warrant on her behalf. And she says, well, isn't that hearsay? You know, because he just heard it from me. He doesn't actually have any first-hand knowledge of the facts. This is how they get away with doing plea deals on situations like this in the first place. Is because nobody who was actually harmed, no party of interest, actually went into court and verified what happened to them. So no facts appear on the record. So the court can just make up whatever they wish to make up. And then they can just toss away charges whenever they wish. And it seems really funny to me how they always seem to toss away the really violent, heinous charges. You know, like raping a girl for 7 years from the age of 5 to 12. But if you saw Andrew Tickle's case, they wouldn't throw out their charges because the cops were up there illegally and unlawfully. They didn't have a warrant. They were on private property. They weren't invited. All he had was pot. He didn't even rape anybody. He didn't even hurt anybody.
I can't put charges on my behalf.
Not for a felony. Not for.
Did you hear that? She said, so I can't charge him on my behalf. Like, I can't do this myself without your permission. And Monica Jernigan goes, not for a felony.
Not for a felony. Felonies have to be investigated by law enforcement.
Alright. Can I get 1 second?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Investigated by law.
Say that again?
Their felony and felonies have to be investigated by law enforcement.
They're telling me that felonies have to be investigated by law. Well, they always already done. It was done. It was done in the state bar.
Record of the court, yeah.
They already have all the facts. State bar did it in 3 days in Henderson County Court.
And not only that, but they already investigated James Sapp too. They, like, the cops have the record.
They have all the records, so it's done.
Sorry. So it was investigated already by, so
But the law enforcement officers, the policy of this county, this district, actually, Henderson, Pennsylvania, and Polk, has been for, like I said, at least over a decade. But having said that, it has to be investigated and then.
Alright, here's what's really interesting. She just said for this entire district, okay, Henderson, Transylvania County, and Polk. What's really interesting about this is Magistrate Jody Everett's allowed me to file a criminal complaint and an affidavit attached with it about 7 months before Henry and I tried to go in and swear out a warrant against McAvoy Britton for kidnapping us in the middle of a courtroom because Henry just said, she's not my attorney, and y'all are moving forward on my case. And even way back then, I made a video telling everybody, hey, come on people, we're losing our rights. We have to get law back. It's only going to get worse from here. And look at this now. She can't swear out a warrant on her behalf. She has to get the state's permission to swear out a warrant against somebody who worked for the state that everybody basically tried to cover for them until they just couldn't anymore. And this is what I'm talking about with everybody losing rights. Because when I went in to go swear out the criminal complaint, it was no problem. Linda and I just went in by ourselves. We didn't even have 15 people like we had up in Hendersonville the time we did this. And if I could have been standing next to Valerie, I'm absolutely sure I could have moved around Monica Jernigan and Logic just like I moved around Jody Everett's every single time. But I can't do this alone.
Then has to be brought to us by a law enforcement officer to charge on your behalf. It can be charged, but that's just the formal way that it has to go about.
Okay, see, that's really important. Because Monica just said he can be charged. Okay? So there's no double jeopardy on this. He can be charged. VO, Valerie O&B, has the complete right to charge him. She's just saying, right here, we have a policy that denies your right to due process of law.
And that is, not all counties in the state are like that. I know that for a fact. But in this district, that is what has been ordered by the chief district court judges in the past and now, present.
Okay.
And it's not that I'm not trying to help you.
See, she just said that's what was ordered by chief district court judges in the past and the present. But months before Henry and I went to go swear out a warrant against Thomas McAvoy Britton for kidnapping us completely unlawfully, I went and swore out a criminal complaint against another judicial officer. They didn't have this policy with me. And then when Henry Ramo and I went to go swear out a warrant against Thomas McAvoy Britton for what he did, she basically said the same thing to us. So my guess is the day we went to go swear out a warrant against him is the day that Governor Roy Cooper promoted him and appointed him Chief District Court Judge. So he must have started the policy because now he's still Chief District Court Judge or has that person. And now he's using that person to deny VO her right to access a court of law.
If you want me to try to contact a law enforcement officer and have them come take a report and get it started for you, you can. Or you can certainly, because I know that you're probably not going to want to tell this story 1,000 times. I mean, I know you're not. Seriously, let's be honest. It's not something that you're proud to tell, I'm sure. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm sure it's hard for you to tell. But
how bitchy of a thing is that to say to a young woman who was raped for 7 years of her life. You don't wish to tell the story 1,000 times over, so you should just let the officer keep saying it for you. So that way, we don't put any first-hand knowledge of the facts upon the record. Because it's probably a little embarrassing. Not saying that there's anything to be embarrassed about. That's an incredibly bitchy thing to say. That's just wrong. You know, and this is what happens. I mean, Valerie Owenby talked about getting beat up when she was on the stand at the state bar, at their administrative court for Greg Newman. She said it was brutal. I feel like this is pretty brutal as well. And Monica knows exactly what she wishes to do, and there's no real conflict in law because Monica says, well, there's no real conflict of interest, like there's no double jeopardy. We just can't do it for you because of our policy. Now, in other counties of the state, they would do it for you because that's what the law is. And they don't have this policy to take away your right to due process. That's what I just heard.
Having said that, I'd be happy to try to give you a number that you can call Monday and put you in touch with one of the sex crimes investigators. And
I'd be happy if you go with the police department and put this into the administrative side where we don't have to follow due process of law. And, you know, I'm actually kind of glad that Monica Jernigan talked about, you don't want to say this story 1,000 times over, because it gives me a little bit of insight as to what the other side would probably do had Valerie Owenby actually sworn out the warrant. They would probably set up a court date like every 2 weeks, knowing that she couldn't travel back up from Florida every 2 weeks to be there. So if the other side wishes to cross-examine her because you have the right to face your accuser, then they could just throw it out because she's not there. That way, she can at least handle that before the charges are filed.
assuming, and I might be making an assumption, did this occur in the county or the city? So who would have jurisdiction over it?
Henderson County.
So it was in the county though and not in the city limits?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so it would be the sheriff's department that would investigate. So I'd be happy to try to get you up with one of them if you would like to contact them.
All right. Give me 1 minute. I'll hold on to that note real quick. Okay. But I also do have one for Greg Newman.
Okay.
It would be aiding and abetting, mostly James Stapp, on helping him get out of the, oh goodness, what did I write down again? Sorry, I have to reread my own life. Oh, assisting James Stapp in the prosecution of the sex offense with the child and everything else as well.
Okay. So explain to me where you're going on that. What it is you're saying. Assist him in the prosecution.
Yes, of getting him off the hook, mostly.
Okay. Okay. So first off, we have a problem. Let me explain this. Are you, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, you clarify for me. So you're speaking of Greg Newman while he was a district attorney, in the capacity of a district attorney. You're alleging this happened, correct?
No, actually, she's accusing him of doing this while he was impersonating a district attorney officer, because in the order where Greg Newman got removed from office, it clearly states in the findings of facts by a judicial officer that each of the 3 things that Greg Newman did in her particular case was grounds for removal. Which means he couldn't have been acting like a district attorney when he did those things.
Give me a second.
You're not talking about something that's happened since April when he was removed.
Yes,
from office.
correct.
Okay, you're talking about something prior.
Yes.
So he was a district attorney at the time that you're alleging that this happened.
Correct.
Okay.
No, he was impersonating a district attorney at the time that this actually happened. He was not acting as a district attorney because his actions got him removed from that office.
Gonna hate me.
And this is already a fact upon the record of their court.
There again, elected officials also have to be investigated by law enforcement.
Okay, even though the sovereign immunity doesn't count because he wasn't.
The sovereign immunity, no. I mean, that's just there again. That is what has to happen in our district. And I have to obey the laws that are set down, rules that are set down as policy in our county, because I actually am under the supervision of the chief district court judge. And so those are orders that are given to us. I'm not saying it can't happen, I'm just saying there again, it has to be investigated by law enforcement, because at the time you're alleging he did this, he was an elected official. Obviously is not now.
Yes.
But
Okay, this should be absolutely infuriating to everybody, because she's like, well, the laws, I have to follow the laws. Well, actually the policy that the district court judge, the chief district court judge, Thomas McAvoy Britton, lays down and orders me to do, which is take away your right to access a court of law. But you know what, Monica Jernigan? You actually bring up a really, really good point. Why hasn't law enforcement investigated this? Why isn't the state of North Carolina, after finding how many crimes Greg Newman committed, why haven't they investigated and arrested him on their own behalf for committing treason against the state and violating the Constitution and committing treason against the people and conducting war against the nation using his district attorney person that he was impersonating? I think that's a really good question. I believe everybody should call the Hendersonville County Courthouse or the Henderson County Courthouse in North Carolina and ask them why they haven't investigated. Or call down to the sheriff's department or the new acting district attorney and ask them why they haven't investigated. And of course, as always, we'll have the numbers somewhere up here. And they'll be in the description too. But Monica, you kind of got a point. You see, if the government's working for the people, and it should try to protect them like Josh Stein always says he's trying to do, then they should investigate themselves and bring their own charges against Greg Newman without us having to try and do this, instead of trying to protect Greg Newman by not allowing VO, by not allowing Valerie OMB, who's incredibly brave, who's an incredibly strong-hearted individual, to do it on her own behalf.
But even though it was like made with the state bar and everything, that it already had happened.
Oh, and that's another thing I also wish to say to all of the naysayers. Monica Jernigan said, no, sovereign immunity doesn't apply because he's been removed from office. So he hasn't been acting as a district attorney. So he can't say he was acting as a district attorney.
Had happened, and then also with this, they would still have to do an investigation.
They would still have to do an investigation because what the bar did is not criminal. That was not criminal
Okay.
in the law license.
You're right. What the bar did was not criminal with the law license. What happened with Greg Newman's removal wasn't a criminal action either. But all of the facts upon all the records of the court is that Greg Newman committed multiple crimes. The facts are already there on the court. I don't even really see what you have to investigate. What do you got to investigate? You got to go read your own court order?
Suspension and all of that.
And then what happened here?
Correct. Because at this point, that wasn't the bar, that was the court that actually removed him either. But that's still not a criminal charge like what you're trying to do.
Okay.
So it's still a separate.
Like what you're trying to do, but we're not going to
I
let
realize
you.
that's confusing, but
Yeah, mostly we're the person who doesn't know them all that much.
yeah. But that's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
All right.
So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying those are the steps that you would have to take in order to do it. Confusing, but
Yeah, mostly we're the person who doesn't know them all that much.
yeah. But that's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
All right.
So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying those are the steps that you would have to take in order to do it.
Did you hear that? That's just the way it is. Because Thomas McAvoy Britton ordered me not to issue this warrant for you. Not saying it can't be done, because you absolutely have the right to swear out the warrant. Monica Jernigan's not exactly lying to her. She's just not telling her the truth. And this is kind of the problem, is because you shouldn't have to know as much as I know about law to maybe get it upheld in a courtroom. That's what the judicial officer's for. See, this is why judicial officers know law. Because a lot of attorneys don't actually know law. They just know administration because that's what they were taught is law. See, Monica Jernigan is a magistrate. She is a servant. That's what a magistrate is. It's a servant to the public. And Monica Jernigan knows law. You can tell because she said, yep, double jeopardy doesn't apply. Sovereign immunity doesn't apply. You can do what you're talking about doing. You just can't do it like this. Because I was ordered by my boss not to do it for you. Sorry. Want me to call the cops for you? You see, the whole point of having a judicial officer who knows law is so that they can kind of help you out. Like Monica was doing at the beginning. You have to tell me. You have to verify it here in the open court. Let me know what you wish to do. What do you want to do? Yes, this is the proper place to take out charges. Yeah. Like I said, if I could have been in there with Valerie, if I would have felt comfortable enough that they weren't just going to snatch me up and come up with some bogus charges, I would have been in there with Valerie. And you know how bad I feel that I wasn't?
Understood. All right. I'll probably be back in a little bit.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Let me know.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's not working well. Thank you.
You still have your papers?
Watch.
What happened?
She won't let me tell her that, because it's already been investigated.
Valerie OMB went back in there 2 more times. And again, because I couldn't go back in there, Monica said, I'm not refusing to take your paperwork. But Valerie didn't know what to do. And in fact, after I got home and listened to this recording, I felt comfortable enough asking Valerie to just go in there by herself. With Oracle, and maybe a couple other people who were still up there. That they would let her just walk on through. But her nerves were shot. I understand. It's a nerve-wracking thing. So she didn't do it. But when we were leaving that day, we were all talking about having her come back up and doing it again when we could get more people. If you're looking for Valerie to save you from this corrupt government, she can't do it. The only way we can do it is if we do it together. I can't do it for you. The only way we can do it is if we do it together. I'm incredibly proud of Valerie Owenby. And I hope and I pray that the Creator puts it on her heart and gives her the strength and the bravery to come back up here and try it again. And if the Creator does that, I really hope the Creator will put it on your heart to come and support her and watch her do it, and let the local government there know in Hendersonville, North Carolina, that y'all are people and you have rights that were given to you by God. Now they can't just take them away. I'm going to play what we did after we left the courtroom, the magistrate's office, out in the parking lot. I'd just like for everyone to know, like, even just in front of us, all of the people who came there to support her, she was still so nervous that she didn't realize the second page to her declaration about Greg Newman. I had to remind her of that. That's how nervous this brave young woman was to do what she did. And she did it anyways, because she doesn't wish to see any more little girls get raped. She doesn't wish to see any more murders go not prosecuted. She wishes for the government to do their job and to uphold your rights. And she has a huge heart and is incredibly brave for doing that. And so I hope that heart and that bravery sheds off onto the rest of us. Because I'm so disappointed in myself for not at least going in there to try and help her. Because the last time I was at court, they were talking about me being investigated by the FBI for this channel. Think about that for a minute. The FBI can't go and investigate the judiciary of St. Louis, Missouri, kidnapping children. They can't go and investigate when a child verified in an open court that her father was molesting her, and then Nicole Zellweger arrests her mom to try to force Delilah to go with her dad. And she's still so unwilling that she went to a mental institution. And to this day, Angela has no clue where Delilah is. Could you imagine if that were you? If the state ripped away your child and gave your child to a child molester? The FBI can't investigate that, but they're going to investigate me for this extremist content right here. Let that sink in. And hopefully, we'll see you all the next time Valerie's up in North Carolina. If she chooses to try again. Anyways, Valerie, I'm incredibly proud of you. You did an awesome job. You are a true blue co-conspirator. I'm incredibly honored that you would consider me a friend. We are just conspiracy, and we just wish to conspire with other good people of this planet to leave a better world for future generations than the world we all grew up in. One world, love, and peace. All right, we're holding court right out here on the street because the state won't offer you any court of law. It's just like they told you in Tennessee, you have no right to due process because you're a slave.
I wasn't able to put any of my paperwork in today at all. Because,
That's all right. We got a court of record right here, right now.
Yeah.
And why were you not able to put the paperwork in?
Because either one of them was a felony and they told me that I had to go through the sheriff's office to get an investigation, which there have already been an investigation for James Sapp, and also for Gregory Newman, because he is a judicial officer.
He's not a judicial officer. He was removed.
Yeah, I know, which I told her that, and she did not listen to me at all. She said,
she should know.
Yeah, I know. That I still have to go through the sheriff's office because of an investigation for him, which I already told them again, and she already knew that there was already an investigation for Raleigh and for Hendersonville County.
And the she is who?
Oh, goodness.
Monica Jernigan.
Monica Jernigan.
Yep, Monica.
We know her.
One of the magistrates here in Henderson County.
She was the one who was here last time when Henry and I came over here to swear out a warrant because we got kidnapped. And they told us something very similar. Well, let's hear your declaration.
My declaration?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody else wishes to hear, even if they don't.
Oh, yes.
Let me get to it.
This is the jury.
Declaration of facts. I, Valerie Owenby, under penalty of perjury and on public record of court, declare. Point 1. I met with Greg Newman sometime between August 6th through September 23rd of 2014. Bullet point 2. At meeting, Greg Newman stated that the case against James Sapp would be a quote-unquote slam dunk with pictures and my statement to police. 3 is after May 18th of 2015, I found out that Greg Newman secured 5 counts indictments against James Sapp on my behalf. 4, I had explicitly told Greg Newman I wished to voice my victim's impact statement and called Greg's office multiple times to reassure them of my resolve to see James Sapp's charges through trial, conviction, and sentencing. Number 5 is on October 30th of 2015. I was informed by my father, Oppie Owenby, that Greg Newman had given James Sapp aid, assistance, and comfort from North Carolina State Prosecution through a plea deal.
Which now Monica Jernigan's doing for Greg Newman. Greg Newman, yeah. Then you have a couple more points on the Newman.
Page 2.
Oh yeah,
Take
sorry.
a step to the side. There's some ants here. There you go.
Thank you. Number 6 was Greg Newman never communicated with me about the plea deal and dropped my accusations against my express consent. Number 7 is I accused Greg Newman of allowing James Sapp to walk away from state prosecution with willful intent and outside of the duties of district attorney. Evidence appear upon record of court in case 21 CVS 231. Order for removal at paragraph 115, 116, and 119. Today, July 10th of 2021, I move court issue warrant for Greg Newman, who used his office to act as accessory after the fact to James Sapp's violations of my sacred body from ages 5 through 12.
There you go. I guess nothing's sacred anymore. And you know what's really interesting is that the government can just arrest you for pot or Lortabs or heroin or methamphetamine, but you can't go down and swear out a warrant against somebody who raped you for 7 years. Let that sink in.